I just got back from the vet, and if y'all take a look inside, you're gonna see that there's creep pellets. I fed him some creep pellets, and I gave him a little bit of corn that I mixed in with it. And I bought it on my way back. I just figured I would let him have it. I gave it just 1 sack of creep feed. And if you look at the ground, you're gonna see that there's water on the ground. So I did get the rain last night. And I got another about a 50% chance of it raining. I think it's either later today or early tomorrow or something. And then I got a 90% chance of it raining on Monday. But I did get enough moisture on my field to germinate the seed. And it is also cool enough to germinate the winter wheat. So the temperature is good. I got just enough moisture, and the seed should be germinating. I would anticipate that, well, I mean, things went very well, and the seed should be germinating here in about a week, in about 5 days. And then I should be getting some more rain on Monday, and the temperatures are cool. And so I actually got to go to the dentist here in a little bit. But I got back from the vet, and the vet is saying that the animal is good to go. She just probably got some kind of an infection. He thinks that, well, he felt around in her mouth, and he felt her mouth, and he's saying that he doesn't feel anything in there. He doesn't think that anything's in her mouth. He thinks that what happens is she got her mouth cut open, and then she got a bacterial infection. And so he gave her another shot of antibiotics, and he said that she should be good to go. But if the swelling is not gone in a week, then I should bring her back in. And so that's good news. I let her out today. I let her out to walk around with the other cattle. And so that's good. She seems she should be good to go. The vet is saying that he didn't feel anything in her mouth. So he doesn't think that there's anything inside of her mouth that's causing it to swell. And he doesn't think that it's a major problem. So that's very good to hear. And so she should be okay. Okay, and I wanted to talk about this because in terms of a reality check, I feel like I should talk about this. I've always said that when I say these things, I'm not looking to be a prick, right? And I think that a lot of people, it's like, by the time you've probably, gotten here, it's already probably too late. I mean, you're already probably a massive pile of problems. I mean, it's probably, okay, and here's another way to look at it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we're talking about. It's not just cattle farming. You're probably never even going to get to the 10% mark. You've heard me say this before, and I'll say it right now, and I'll put some emphasis on it. But most people are not even going to get to the 10% mark if they live to be 5,000. At the rate you're going, most people are effectively going the entirely wrong way. And if you want to see what I'm talking about, because I'm a farmer, right? I'm a cattleman. Go on YouTube right now and see how many people are in the cattle business that are effectively just completely misinformed. I fell out of heaven at 7, and they're just not doing well at all. And then that's, me, I'm just going to be completely honest. If I'm going to be completely just straightforward, I've always said that there's no time to waste. I don't have time to waste. Nobody has time to waste. Me, I don't save people, all right? I'm not going to sit there and hold your hand. For most people, it's already too late. It's already too late. I can almost guarantee it. It's already too late, and most people aren't even going to get to the 10% mark if you live to be 5,000. All right, I'm just going to be straightforward with y'all. I mean, there's no time to waste. I was actually thinking about this morning, but it was like, I could have sat here by myself and just not made any videos. I could have not made any videos, and I could have just sat here by myself and just been rich by myself forever. And I've thought about that, and it's like, because at the end of the day, the only reason that I really make these YouTube videos is because maybe I can be of use. Maybe someone out there. Because here's the thing, and I was talking about this, but maybe like 3 of you are going to actually listen to this video and go, and this is actually incredibly useful for you, and you're going to improve your life in a drastic way because of these videos. But the rest of you, I've already said this, and I've even said this probably 5 times in this video. It's too late. All right, the damage has been done, and it is practically permanent. I can almost guarantee it. All right, and it's like, and when I say things like nobody cares what you think, you should be thinking about the money. At the end of the day, money is money. It doesn't matter what you think. It's like when I say these things, maybe it will be enlightening. Maybe you'll see it and you'll go, he actually has a point, right? I mean, here is a guy who makes a drastic amount of money, and he's legitimately telling everybody exactly how he did it for free. Right, that's at the end of the day, that's what it boils down to, right? I made a drastic amount of money. I'm net positive cash flow in terms of, like, if I just sat around on my hands forever and I just collected cash, then I would be net positive like $7,000-8,000 a month. In terms of the amount of equity that I generate, I mean, it's in the 7 figures. I mean, you know, and it's like, you know, and I've talked about in terms of equity, it's like, even though, you know, my business has a 7-figure equity evaluation, chances are I cannot sell my business, because if I did not get sold with my business, then the business is going to fall apart effective immediately. All right, farming is not something that you do with money. And I've talked about this all the time, but you're probably, I mean, farming is one of those things. It's like me, there is no skipping the work. Or it doesn't matter what you think. If anything, you're probably better off just keeping your BS to yourself, all right? I can almost guarantee it. All right, it doesn't matter. You know, there is no skipping the work. If your plan right now is legitimately not to work 15 hours a day for the next 15 years of your life, you're not even going to get to the 10% mark if you live to be 5,000. All right, most people are never even going to get to the 10% mark their entire life. All right, you have to consider this, you know, and I've been talking about this, but when you're looking at me as a farmer, you're actually, you probably don't understand that you may actually be watching one of the best farmers on the entire planet. All right, you probably don't understand that. Fundamentally, you don't understand that. And I've always said that farming is not just farming. And I use these ideas in terms of a broader generality, because it's not, you don't need to become a cattle farmer to become rich. You should probably not become a cattle farmer. All right, unless your plan is legitimately, I'm going to drop everything that I'm doing for the next 15 years of my life, and I'm going to work on it for 15 hours a day. Then you're not going to make it. All right, you're probably not even going to get to the 10% mark. You know, most of you won't even get to the 10% mark if you live to be 5,000 at the rate that you're going. You're doomed forever. All right, unless you turn yourself around on a dime. And it's, you know, and you probably don't, the damage has already been done. All right, if you've become poor, you're probably stuck as a poor person forever. And it doesn't matter what you think. All right, go and make some money. Let's see you make money. All right, I've already shown that I make a drastic amount of money. I make more money on a 10.5 acre field than most people make on 1,000 acres. All right, and it's like a lot of you probably don't understand that this might legitimately be the most successful farm on the entire planet. All right, you probably don't understand when you're watching me. All right, I mean, and chances are you're a massive pile of problems. You even if it slapped you in the face tomorrow, you would have no idea what you're even remotely looking at. And even worse, you would probably go running off the wrong way. All right, oh my God, you know, I should go and get together with 50 other idiots so that, you know, if there's 51 of us, then we can make a Power Ranger Megazord, and we're all going to sit here and fiddle each other's diddlies and be poor together forever and just feel good about ourselves. All right, most people are completely stuck. You're practically doomed. All right, forever. You're essentially going to be a poor person into eternity and beyond, and even worse, you're going to drag other people into being poor with you. All right, and it's like when you watch my farm, you have to understand that this might legitimately be the most successful farm on the entire planet. All right, I make more money on a 10.5 acre field than most people make on 10,000, on not 10,000, on 1,000 acres. I make more money on 10.5 acres than most people make on 1,000 acres. If I were to sit on my hands and just collect money, I would be net positive cash flow almost $80,000 a year. And that would be if I just collected cash. I would also have equity in my investments. I would also have equity in my investments. I would also be generating equity because I can start a business. All right, and I was talking about this, a couple of days ago in terms of my business. In reality, you know, the equity valuation of my business, it might be very high, but it is only very high under one circumstance, and that is if I am actually here at my business. Because even if I sold my business, like let's say I sold my business for $1 million, right? Even if I sold it, the business would bankrupt immediately if I did not go with the business. Farming is not something that you can buy into. Farming, you know, because, you know, I talked about this, but essentially, like, if you go on the internet right now and you find a business that you can purchase and it's not a 100% skill-based business, if you bought that business and you checked the numbers 50,000 times, you checked everything 50,000 times, you made sure everything added up, and you checked all the accounts, made sure everything was correct, and you took your deal to the bank, and you made sure that, and then you bought that business, and you were net positive whatever $7,000-8,000 a month. Granted that you did not act like an idiot and you actually did the due diligence, you're gonna net positive $7,000-8,000 a month, and chances are you don't need to be 100% skill dependent. I mean, you can go and like if you bought a rental property, or even if you bought something like a whatever, in a lot of these businesses, if you buy a business, the owner will actually train you for a month. The owner will actually show you whatever needs to get done for a month. And almost in all of these businesses, you can actually learn what you need to do in about a month. Right? But in farming, you cannot learn what you need to do in a month. All right, you're going to legitimately have to work like 15 hours a day for the next 15 years of your life. Most of you won't even get, I personally do not know anybody that's even gotten to the 10% mark. Not one person. All right, that's how bad it is. I mean, farming is incredibly difficult. It might be the most difficult thing that you have ever done in your entire life by a long shot. And most of you are not ready for that. All right, so you should probably just go and do something else. If you are dead set on becoming a farmer, then go and do it. I mean, then go and do it. No, you don't have to, whatever. Then prove me wrong. Go and do it. All right, you want to go and be a farmer, then go and do it. All right, prove me wrong. I will gladly shake your hand. Go and make yourself $1 million, whatever it is. I mean, go and make yourself some money, and then I'll shake your hand. All right, but most of you aren't even going to get to the 10% mark. You have to understand that farming is incredibly difficult. It's borderline impossible. You're probably, unless your plan is legitimately that you're going to, work 15 hours a day for the next 15 years of your life, you're not going to make it. All right. And, at the end of the day, and I know that this is going to sound horrible, but I just say these things because there is no time to waste. Okay. There is no time to waste. Most of you, the damage has already been done. The damage is practically permanent. It's not even just in farming, but you're probably not even going to get to the 10% mark in anything at anything. Even if it's just, you want to, whatever, right? Because imagine what and I always talk about the 10% mark, and I say I wouldn't even think about farming. All right, because realistically, if you went out and like right now, if you went out and you bought yourself like a rental property, or you bought yourself a business, you would not be in a situation where you would legitimately just have to be working and not making anything for the next 15 years. All right. And chances are, if you actually follow the steps and you actually do your due diligence, and you're actually very thorough and you're very methodical, and you actually do everything right. You're not going to just go and throw a Hail Mary into the middle of nowhere. Oh my God, I'm here to do business with my buddy pals, and we're all going to be friends. And granted that you're not doing that. Right, if you went and you bought something right now, like a rental property, let's say that you buy a rental property and it's net positive cash flow, maybe 7.5% a year, and then you sit down and you take a look at it, and you're like, well, if I bought this rental property right now, I would make a 7.5% return on my money. But when I really take a look at it and I crunch the numbers and I use some realistic numbers, I would anticipate that my property goes up in value 2% a year. I would anticipate a 2% appreciation value, and I would also anticipate that about half of my money when I pay the bank goes into the equity of the property. And when I crunch these numbers, I anticipate that over the next about maybe 5 years, 3 to 4 years, I can actually increase my net return to 14%. Right, and you've come up with a realistic plan. Right. I think that the interest rate environment, chances are we're headed for lower rates, the economy, whatever, or, the rates are going to go sideways and the economy is just going to kind of stagnate. And so I'm going to go and get the appraisal value of my property, and I'm going to ask for a 10% deduction on the listing price. You come up with a realistic plan. All right. You come up with a realistic plan. You sit there and you think about it, and then, I've always used the, realistically, I say 14% is the magic number. If you can make a 14% net positive return on your investment, then you can do it knowledgeably, right? You actually understand how to do it. All right, like if you were in charge of capital, and I've always said, don't even worry about the money, because the money, at the end of the day, the money is always the easy part. If you're worried about money, okay, and here's another way to look at it. Like me, if I see somebody with money problems, I don't see a person with money problems. I see a person with some other major problem and it is manifesting itself as a money problem. All right, you bought a car that you can't afford. You went on a vacation that you couldn't afford. You got a drinking problem. You're on drugs. You're kind of an idiot. Something is very wrong and it's manifesting itself as a money problem. All right, money is always the easy part. You know, money is always the easy part. Don't even worry about the money. In reality, when I talk about assets, you know, what are the, the things that I talk about are like what? You know, never buy a damaged asset. All right, you don't buy damaged assets. Okay, there is no saving an asset. If the asset is damaged, go and buy something else. Why? Because at the end of the day, the asset is going to pay for itself. All right, and I talk about these things, right? And it's like, you have to actually make sure that you follow the steps. And if you can make imagine if you just did 10% of what I did, right? I mean, most people cannot generate $2 million on a 10.5 acre field. I may be the only one on the entire planet. It doesn't matter what you think. If you're going to be an idiot, go and be an idiot by yourself. I've always said, if you're poor, the best thing that you can do is go and be poor by yourself. Don't encourage other people to be poor with you. All right, because if you encourage other people to be poor with you, I mean, you're just dooming everybody. All right, and so when I take a look, it's like, if you even did 10% and you just generated $250,000 a year, if you just generated $200,000 a year and you made a 14% return on that, you would be making an extra $28,000 a year from the very get-go. And imagine that you just did that for 3 years. You would be making yourself a borderline extra $80,000 a year. Right? I mean, and, I've talked about all of these different things. Like, if you have something that is equitable, but you don't want to liquidate it, right? You have an asset that is equitable. You've had it appraised by a professional, and the professional has told you your asset is worth this much money, and you don't want to liquidate your asset. What can you do? You open a line of credit against the equity. You can hold the equity as collateral, right? I've talked about this, and it's like, depending on what you're trying to buy, this is how you do it. This is what I've talked about, right? Like, if you want to buy real estate, how do you do it? Right? You find the asset that you want, you take it to the bank and you talk to the banker about it, and the banker will give you numbers. If you want to buy a property that's $350,000 and you're going to get a 30-year term loan on it, it's a 30-year loan and they're going to give you a 6.5% interest. What is your monthly payment? How do you find that out? You go on Google and you type in mortgage calculator. When you make a monthly payment to the bank, granted that you're not doing an interest-only loan. I wouldn't do an interest-only loan unless we're talking about a massive amount of money. Because if we're talking about a massive amount of money and you've legitimately considered, you're knowledgeably going to be able to appreciate that money, and we're talking about a massive sum of money, you probably don't want to be paying principal. But I mean, for most of you, that's not going to be relevant. Okay, you don't want to be taking an interest-only loan unless we're talking about a massive amount of money. All right. And so, I mean, whatever, right? I mean, if we're talking about real estate, how do you get financing for that deal? How do you find out how much you're going to have to pay per month? If we're talking about buying a business, how do you find the equitable value of a business? How do you consider the equitable value of a business? How do you purchase equity, leveraging for equity? I've talked about all of these things already, right? And then once you have something that is equitable and if you don't want to liquidate the asset, but you still want to access your capital, how do you do that? Right? You open a line of credit against it. I've already talked about all of these things multiple times, right? In great detail. All right. And so it's like, me, and it's like, depending on what I want to do, if I want capital to purchase more cattle, then and I was talking about this, but I can actually hold my business as a form of collateral for a business line of credit, right? I mean, am I gonna sell my business so that I can have money to purchase more cattle? No. And in reality, I can't. Selling my business, unless I went with my business, it wouldn't matter, because whoever bought my business, chances are you're just gonna bankrupt it. I would actually guarantee almost everybody on the entire planet, even if you purchase, and I talked about this in terms of farming as a fundamental idea. It's like even if you had the money, Like, let's just say that let's just say you got a massively good deal on my business and you purchased my business and you paid whatever, $4,000 a month for it, $3,000 a month for it. Let's just say that, to you, $3,000 a month was just, you weren't even worried about the $3,000 a month, right? You're not even worried about the $3,000. And you purchased my business. Well, congratulations. You just completely bankrupted yourself. All right. You're not going to be able to farm. Nobody is. I can almost guarantee it doesn't matter what you think. And if you think that you can farm, if you legitimately think that you can farm like me, you legitimately think that, then you're probably an idiot. All right, because it's not going to happen. And if you could do it, you would already be doing it. All right. I mean, I don't know how else to put that. I mean, you're going to have to start putting in some massive level of effort. All right. Nobody cares what you think. You were born average, and chances are you turned yourself into an idiot throughout your life. All right. You're going to have to put in a massive level of effort. Most people don't even get to the 10% mark their entire life. Most people wouldn't even get to the 10% mark if they lived to be 5,000 at the rate that they're going. You have to understand that, you have to start putting in effort. The number one thing that is the most important, I can show you how I do everything. I can lead you in the right direction, but if you do not practice, you are not going to make it. Practicing is the most key fundamental. If I have somebody who is legitimately 100 IQ and they are just willing to practice all the time, I can almost guarantee you, I would 100% choose to have that 100 IQ individual than somebody who was 150 IQ, who was sitting around mentally just going, oh my God, I can do this. Right? Oh my God, I would much rather have the 100 IQ individual. If you're 100 IQ and you legitimately practice all the time, you are going to get further than somebody with 150 IQ. And I've already talked about this, but me, in terms of a broader reality, if you put me in a room with 1,000 people, chances are 350 or so people are just going to be smarter than me. They are going to be born smarter than me. They are legitimately just going to be more intelligent than me. It's not like it's not like I can do 5, 6, 7 things. The only thing that I can do is farm. The only thing. Right, I'm pretty much just a farmer. If I tried to do anything else, I would essentially just, but at the end of the day, would I ever, wreck myself so badly that I have no money? No, I wouldn't, right? Why? Because at the end of the day, I'm also not an idiot. All right, and I know that sounds horrible, but we just got to think about it for what it is, right? I mean, if chances are, if you're having money problems, you're not actually having money problems. All right, you're not actually having money problems. You're actually having some other major problem, and it is manifesting itself as a money problem. Money is always the easiest thing, right? Money is always the easiest thing. If you need money to finance a deal, whatever, then your deal, it's like then it doesn't. Money to me is irrelevant. All right, because as long as I run cattle and I run cattle properly, I effectively make so much money that I can do anything that I want. And I wanted to talk about this. Maybe this will be the last thing I talk about because I got to get going. But I just wanted to put an emphasis on this, that me, the reason why I say that I'm, and I was talking about this yesterday, but like, let's say that I just go and I take a loan for $100,000 right now to get my new farm started. I anticipate that I'm gonna have to purchase about 150 cattle over the next 6 months. Okay, I anticipate that I'm gonna have to purchase about 120 cattle over the next 6 months. Let's say I take a loan for $75,000 or $60,000. I just say, banker, this is my project. This is, I'm already making money. I'm already a cattleman. I already make a boatload of money. I'm not sitting here, going, I fell out of heaven a 7 and I'm going to throw a Hail Mary into the middle of nowhere for no reason. That's not me. I already make money, right? I already make money. Here's the proof, right? Here's the proof. Here's my tax paperwork. You can look at it for yourself. I already make the money. Right, I already make the money and I want a loan for $75,000. And let's just say for whatever reason, for whatever idiotic thing that I could possibly come up with, it's like I lose $75,000 worth of cattle for whatever reason, right? I mean, which is not going to happen. I'm more likely to get struck by lightning twice. All right, like if I was going to lose $75,000 worth of cattle, that would be like me losing 200 animals. All right, I'm not going to lose, and I'm only talking about purchasing 120. Right? I mean, it's a ridiculous idea. And even if I did lose the 75 grand and I bankrupted, I still have an LLC, right? My assets are tied to my LLC. Legally, I'm protected from losing, anything outside the LLC. And, and even if I went negative 75 grand, I can always come back to a 10.5 acre farm. If I want to farm a 10.5 acre farm forever and just make 70 grand, 80 grand a year, I can always do that. And I can, even if I lost 75 grand, I can always just come back. Right? I can always just farm 10.5 acres. And if I farm 10.5 acres, all of the money that I lost, I can make it back in 1 year. All right, it's a negligible amount of money. I mean, I'm talking about, I'm going to take a loan for $500,000. It's not like I'm going to take a loan for, $5 billion. $500,000 is a negligible amount of money, right? I mean, it's practically nothing. I mean, my asset portfolio, maybe, whatever, right? I mean, and a majority of my asset portfolio is generated from my niche, right? The one thing that kind of makes, the one of the big things that makes me very interesting is that I can effectively go anywhere in Central Texas and just start generating myself millions of dollars. That's the thing that makes it that's the thing that makes me very interesting, right? It doesn't matter, if I go anywhere, in Central Texas, it doesn't, you can put me in a field in the middle of nowhere with no money, right? Even if I had $0, right now, I could effectively make myself $1 million in less than a year. All right, I could generate a $1 million equity portfolio in less than a year. And I would be, netting a return of about 14% on that $1 million. It's not hard. How would I do that? By starting a business. Am I suggesting that people start businesses? No. You should probably not start a business. Starting a business might be the worst idea you've ever had in your entire life. All right, the only time that you ever start a business is if you can make a large amount of money. That's the only time. And if you don't believe me, then go and find out for yourself. If you really want to run a business, then go and buy one. All right, and make sure you check all the numbers. You check everything 5,000 times. Make sure that you're not, I fell out of heaven at 7. I'm gonna throw a Hail Mary into the middle of nowhere, and this guy's my buddy pal. And if I do a business deal with him, we're gonna go skipping off into the sunset, holding hands together. Make sure you're not that person. You don't want to be that guy. All right, and make sure you check everything 5,000 times. Okay, and if you really want to run a business that badly, then go and buy one. Don't start a business. The only time and this is just from the absolute sincerity of my heart. All right, I'm not purposefully leading people. I'm not being malicious. I'm not leading you astray. I'm just giving you my honest perspective. And my perspective, is that, I'm actually somebody who actually started a business, and I can actually start businesses effectively whenever I want. And I generate myself a massive amount of money. So much money that, most of you would just, wouldn't know, which hole to piss out of at night. All right, it is a massive amount of money. I effectively make so much money running cattle that I can do anything that I want. Anything. Short of like drugs, gambling, alcohol, stuff like, 10 girlfriends. I can effectively do anything that I want. All right, and and from my perspective, from the most sincere portion of my soul, from the absolute sincerity of my existence, do not start a business unless you can make a large amount of money. That's the only time you ever start a business. You realize that you can make a drastic sum of money, then go and start a business. If you really want to run a business, then go and buy one. All right, just go and buy one. All right, just take your deal to the bank, check the numbers 5,000 times. Make sure you're not the guy who's going, I'm going to throw a Hail Mary into the middle of nowhere, and this is going to work out for me in a spectacular fashion. And this person that I'm doing business with is my buddy pal, and we're going to go holding hands, skipping off into the sunset together, singing Kumbaya. Make sure you're not that guy. All right, make sure you're actually, you actually look at everything, and you 5,000 check everything, and your deal doesn't take you under forever. All right. Because you don't want to be in a situation where you don't want to be in a situation where you just you're essentially just going the wrong way. All right, and you don't want to flop on your deals, and you don't want to throw yourself into an eternal pit of poorness. All right, you don't want to be poor, you know, but I know that this is gonna sound horrible, and every time that I say this, it sounds kind of horrible, but I just say it because it's like there is no time to waste. Okay, there is no time to waste. If you don't turn on a dime, you know, if nobody said anything, you were effectively gonna be poor forever, and you were gonna die that way. And you know, but chances are, if you're already poor, then you're already probably doomed. You're already probably a poor person forever. You will probably not be able to break out of it. Being poor and going from poor to being broke is not hard. It doesn't require any money. All right, it just requires more of an understanding of what needs to be done. And if you've gone from poor to broke, you can fix being broke in 6 months. If I had no money, I still would not be a poor person. All right, even if I had no money, I would almost bet that I could generate, this is a bet that I would probably take somewhere around 10 to 1. I could actually generate $1 million in less than a year, even if I had no money. Even if I had $0, I could still generate $1 million in 1 year. And I would take that bet 10 to 1. Your 10 to my, my 10 to your 1. I would take that bet. It doesn't, being poor is almost impossible. Being broke is not hard. Because if you're broke, it's very temporary, right? I mean, you already know how to get out of being broke. It's very easy, right? You find equitable assets that make a positive return. You have a plan to appreciate the assets profitably. And then, boom, congratulations, there you go. Right, I mean, you do that even if you only do that at the 10% mark. Even if you only do it at the 10% mark, you will still generate yourself like an extra $30,000 a year. $30,000 to $50,000 a year, and you do that for 3 years, and it's like after 3 years you're making yourself an extra 100, 150, 120 grand. It's effectively so much money that you can do anything that you want. Granted that you're not going to go and be an idiot, right? Granted that you're not going to go and do drugs. Granted that you're not going to go and drink a bunch of booze. Granted that you're not going to go and I fell out of heaven a 7 and I'm going to implode, right? You can effectively do anything that you want, right? And the big idea is, you really, the whole idea about tax deductions, you want tax write-offs, right? You want tax benefits, etc., etc. You need to check your deal 5,000 times. I've already told you different ideas for tax deductions. Like me, my cattle are a tax write-off. If you're purchasing a piece of rental real estate, then the interest on your loan is a tax write-off. The property taxes are a tax write-off. Depreciation of the property is something you can utilize as a tax write-off. Granted that your building is under 27 years old or something like that. And if you really want to know the specifics of how much you owe in taxes and how much of a tax write-off you're going to get, ask an accountant. Right, that I've already talked about all of these things like 5,000 times. Because if you're in a situation where you make 10 grand but you pay the government 4 grand, you don't really want to be in that situation. You want to build a better investment portfolio. You don't want to be in a situation where you make 10 grand and pay the government 4. All right, you really want tax write-offs. And if and I've already told you some ideas for tax write-offs, right? Interest on your loan, etc., etc. If you buy a rental property, depreciation of your property, granted that it is under a certain amount of years old, anything that in terms of the cattle business, my cattle are a tax write-off, right? I mean, etc., etc., right? The feed is a tax write-off, the equipment is a tax write-off, etc., etc. All right, and so it's like me when I make whatever, right? When I make 20 grand, I keep like 17 of it. I keep like 18 of it. All right, when I make 20 grand, I almost keep all of it. I almost get to keep all of the money that I make, either as equity in my investments or as, just capital, right? I mean, I get to keep essentially all of the money that I make, all of it. And I grow my wealth tax-free, all right? And so practically tax-free. I mean, it's like, if I make 100 grand, I pay about 5 grand in taxes. And I do that legally. I am not dodging my taxes. All right, and so, and if you want to, then speak to my accountant. All right, talk to my lawyer, do whatever you want. I do it legally. All right, I'm not like dodging taxes and going on a vacation. All right, I purchase assets that are tax deductible, etc., etc. All right, and so that's it for me today, YouTube. I got to go to the dentist. Y'all have a good one.